Get your New Year started with a bang. New Year's Day, or New Year's evening, that is. Utah Jazz versus Toronto Raptors in the first game on NBA TV in 2019. How about that? Let's have a flashback on this date. In 2001, Michael Jordan becomes the oldest player to score 50 or more points for the Washington Wizards. Now, he took a back seat in that game to one Brendan Haywood.
Man, I set some real mean screens for Mike that night.
Godfather of the screen assist.
I set some mean screens for Mike that night. You're not going to see any of them here, but they were set.
Well,
I
nobody
think you had,
appreciates
3 fouls and 2 shots.
I don't know what I had, man. I was watching Mike just like everybody else.
Time to go at the buzzer. Interesting enough, that happened against the Charlotte Hornets. And this is our 40-point club for Saturday night. Kemba Walker leading the charge with 47 at Washington. See how poetic that is? Walker with the mean 4-point play. And this is how you get to 47. You make plays like this, hits the 3 to make it a 1-point game in the fourth quarter. But Griff, you love the hustle here.
I just love this play. The kid just makes a 3 to get his 47th point and has the presence of mind to hustle back on a guy who essentially was cherry picking on the other end and manages to get into the play and commit the foul. I just love the fact that Kemba Walker is about all of the right things and can't get over the irony of the fact that he is now playing for the very Michael Jordan that we showed with 51 points.
Yeah, I had a chance to play with Kemba, and he's always been that type of leader, that type of basketball player. He wants the big shots, he works on the shots, but then he's a great person, and he does the right things consistently, and that's why his teammates always love him. You don't know anybody that has a bad thing to say about Kemba Walker.
Well, James Harden is his teammates not having a lot of bad things to say about what he's doing right now. 9 40-point games this season. Rockets have won 9 of their last 10.
9, that seems like a lot, Brendan. Is that a lot?
That's a lot. 9 out of the last 10, that's pretty good, especially for how this team started out. So Harden has been on a 40-point tear, 40 points or more in 3 straight games, and the Rockets have needed all 40 because they need to get these wins.
And Damian Lillard, he's another guy in a losing effort, drops 40 after hitting the game winner on Thursday against the Warriors.
And the competitiveness of this game has a lot to do with the fact that there were technicals and an ejection. These teams do not like each other, and Damian Lillard brings it every single night he faces these guys.
Here is one of the most incredible moves you're going to see this season, Damian Lillard making them. But, Griff, can we get you to reenact Damian's move from the night?
Performance art. I don't do it for free.
Show us
I don't do
again.
that for free.
Hey, Griff, it's way too late for that.
Post joins us now. Candace, first piece of clarification we need there, the word if is still surrounding John Waltz, whether or not he'll elect to have surgery that will end his season. What's the timetable on making that decision?
It seems like it'll be a couple of days, but he's on the path to he's on the path to surgery. He actually is back in the building today, and he's walking around with a bulky walking boot, and that's a telltale sign that he has to stabilize the left heel. And as Scott Brooks said at his pregame availability, he kept saying it is likely to happen. So it's the end of the 2018-2019 season for John Wall, it appears to be.
Candace, there were stretches last year where this Wizards team, in John's absence, played some of their best ball of the season, but that requires that Otto Porter be healthy as well. Where is he in his return to play, and what does it look like for that Wizards team if John does miss extended time?
There's a lot of pain surrounding this season, and Otto Porter's about to miss his 10th game of the season. He hasn't had a stretch this long of missed games since his rookie season. He's dealing with a muscle strain in his quadriceps, and although it seems like he's cleared to play, the Wizards want to have a practice with him before throwing him back out on the court because it has been so long. But yeah, there were some things that worked last year, especially early on with Thomas Satoransky at the point, because more guys had to step up. By the end of that 8 weeks, because remember, John Wall missed 8 weeks with the left knee debridement last season. By the end of that 8 weeks, they were slowing down. Thomas was slowing down, and they did need They didn't need Wall to come back, but I would imagine the Wizards have danced this dance before. They know how to fill in without him. But right now Otto's out. Markieff Morris could be out for a little while with an upper back neck issue that he's been dealing with, and of course Dwight Howard, who they brought in this summer, expecting him to be this great option for them at the 5. He's still recovering from his spinal surgery, so who knows when the Wizards will look whole.
Guys looking like the walking wounded out there right now, but we have seen this Wizards team be in this situation before, and we've also seen them bounce back. What will this say about the Wizards and how they mix and mesh with John Wall moving forward if this team does make a run and go to the playoffs without John Wall being a part of the roster?
Ooh, look at you looking forward. They are 10 games below the 500 mark, and although they do play in the East, I totally get that. To be where they're at right now, they have dug themselves in quite a hole. I don't envision, a great rally, let's win one for the Gopher or Gipper, whatever that cliche is, type of movement happening. They're just the hole is very big. The hole is very deep. So if they do make that push, as you say, that would be very interesting. But they are locked to John Wall, and John Wall is locked to them, especially considering next year when that Supermax contract comes back. So no matter what happens this year, playoffs or not, John Wall will be back, and he'll be here for the long term into his 30s. So something will have to be figured out between now and then.
Well, Brad's been carrying a load in December, playing almost 40 minutes a night, averaging 26, 6, and 6. Has there been any discussion as far as Scott Brooks saying, like, we have to lighten the load on Brad before we have an issue with him?
Yeah, that has to happen. And Scott Brooks is a big believer that it's not just the game minutes. He believes that, shortening their time in practices and shoot around and things that we don't get a chance to see, that will help him along. But still, Brad had to do a lot last year in the absence of John Wall. Although they had Thomas Satoransky filling in at the point guard, Brad had to play make. He had to, create for himself. And we saw a little bit of a preview of that last night in the fourth quarter. It was basically the Bulls versus Brad Beal, and he couldn't beat the Bulls by himself. And moving forward, he's going to need some help, and he will be playing a lot of minutes. I totally see that happening, but there's got to be somewhere or somebody on this roster to kind of be his Robin.
Candace Buckner, appreciate your time. Thank you for your insight from the Washington Post. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, Griff, let's start with you, because if you're a GM like Ernie Grunfeld, there's a lot that you have to handle with this team and trying to figure out where you're going. So let's start with John Wall. Next year, that Supermax kicks in. 4 years, $170 million. This will be the second season in which his year comes to an end early. How much of his albatross is that on this roster now, seeing what John has been through the last 2 years?
Well, it's worse of an albatross if you don't have him take care of it now, and if you don't get in front of it. The timeline that you've seen sort of rumored out there of 6 to 8 months of return to play would indicate that the injury is actually a spur on the Achilles insertion of his heel. And that's a significant issue. And in order to repair that and have him come back properly, you need to give him as much time as possible. So I think doing this now and getting in front of it is a big part of protecting the asset value you have in the contract. But even if he's healthy, if the team's not playing well and they're 10 games below 500, it's not a contract you feel good about. But they absolutely have to protect the asset value they have now and let him take as long as it takes to get right.
Brendan, last year without John Wall, this team was 20-21. So there should be some sort of optimism right now. Candace didn't seem like she had that for the team. Is it just because of where they're at now? And if John is out for the rest of the season, it's not like he's coming back.
I think it's because the situation is different. Last year, a lot of those other guys we talked about were healthy. Otto Porter was healthy. Kelly Oubre was a part of that team. And so when you see where this team is now, with Austin Rivers being shipped out, Kelly Oubre being traded, injuries to Dwight Howard and many others on this roster, it's hard to say whether they're going to be able to make a move because, yeah, they made that move last year, and Satoransky was able to do some things as far as kicking the ball ahead to guys like Otto and Beal and letting them eat. instead of dominating the way John Wall plays. But this year, I'm not sure if they have the depth to do that or make that run. But it will be telling how this team bounces back and how they respond, because if they do make this type of run, there's going to be a lot of whispers and a lot of people saying, hey, what should we do about that contract? And the fact of the matter is, everybody in D.C., you're stuck with it.
Well, in a weird sort of way, that would actually make it worse for Ernie and for Tommy Shepard. If they go on a great run in the absence of John Wall, now that number really does look like an albatross. And what I think is fascinating is for stretches last year, and we talked to Candace about it, this team looked as good as they looked all year. And Otto Porter, while he was healthy, was also much more ball dominant. They went to him, they asked him to make plays for other people, and he responded. So the number he's on sort of requires that he be asked to carry more of a load. So you can make Otto look more valuable and more worthy of the number he makes and still be in jeopardy of making John's number look even worse than it does currently.
Certainly, I think when the trade deadline comes around, you and I will be sitting here having a discussion if whether or not the Wizards will be buyers or sellers. Can't wait.
Buyers? What are they going to buy? They got a whole team full of bad contracts.